Well,
So
cool. Let's go ahead and hop into this. So for anyone that's joining in, I think my following is still relatively small here. I'm joined today by my friend Matt Blankenship, who is world champion, right?
yeah,
Weightlifter, Masters world champion, Pan Am champion, Howard Cohen. You've done the what it's called the Grand Slam.
the Grand Slam. Yep. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah, so he's won kind of hit the pinnacle of like everything you can do in terms of like masters weightlifting. So basically what I want to start with in talking with you is kind of go back to like the very beginning. So you're a football guy, you've been in
Hmm.
strength and conditioning a while, gotten into weightlifting, CrossFit. Where did it all start for you in terms of like athletics or like strength training? How'd that kind of start for you?
Just a kid, played, baseball, football. Two older brothers, both played football. One was a really good baseball player. One was a football player. Race motorcycles, the oldest brother did. And then that just trickled down. I mean, back in my day, we all played, tackle football in the yard with no pads on. That was, that went on, weekly and daily. And then as we got older, I mean, it just carried on. Baseball, hell, we had a wiffle ball league in the neighborhood that one of the guys there kept stats. He's one of the first guys that had a
Mhm.
computer, so he had like stats that he was keeping on the computer of ERAs and earned run averages and all. I
Holy
mean, earned
shit.
run averages, all that stuff. It was nuts. And we played. We had our team, and then there'd be a crosstown team, like rival team that we played against. So wiffle ball, but yeah, it just all started there. It was just neighborhood kids. I think at the time, if I could count, probably 15 or 20 kids, all the same age, within 5 years of age, each other grew up in the same neighborhood. So
Mhm.
there was always stuff like that going on. So that's where that all began. And then um, I was chubby as a kid. They called me Tank on the
Tank.
midget league football team. I had this little towel on my that I kept in my pants that said Tank on it, and so I was a little chubbier. Had a pretty awesome mullet at the time,
Nice.
and got into middle school in my eighth grade year, and was playing middle school football. I think I was probably 13 around the time, so I was playing about 13-year-old baseball too, and did pretty decent at baseball. My dad pushed baseball quite a bit. Not that I didn't want to do it. It's just it was something we could do at home together. Me and him couldn't do football. We didn't grow up watching football on Saturdays and Sundays. On the weekend we'd be out hunting or doing something, but or fishing. But so eighth grade rolls around, and that's I don't see a bunch of playing time. I'm chubby. I get made fun of my kids at school about being chubby, and then you know, fast forward between my eighth grade and grade year of going into high school. Uh, yeah, that's right. Um, I started working out. So I talked my dad into dropping me off at the local gym. He'd pick me up from school, drop me off the gym. He'd go to work. When he got off work, he'd pick me back up at the local gym. So I would work out, watch those guys lifting weights. I was just enthralled with it. And then I would run afterwards. So I'd always, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just running.
What did so when you first started getting into like the weights, were you just like doing whatever the other guys were doing, or did you have
Oh,
like a plan?
so it was a classic gym where it was these guys that were juiced up lifting there. There was a crew of guys that did that. More power to them. That's their business. But I'd watch them lift, and they were just so strong and so big. And at the time there was no internet to be going to figure out how to go work out. I just watched these guys. And I do the things I liked. Like I didn't like bench press, so I'd bench press on the machine. I liked squats at the time. I like anything to do with my arms. So I did a bunch of curls and watching those guys do curls and tricep extensions and all those things, and then shrugs. their big thing at the time was they put the barbell in a rack. You know, the thing that pisses me off more than anything now is if you go to a gym and somebody's in a rack and you want to use
Hmm.
it and they're sitting there doing shrugs in a rack. I understood why those old guys were doing it because they had 500, 600 pounds on that sucker just ripping it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's how I got like that was my eye-opening experience of how to do and what to do.
Hmm. And then okay, so from there you went on to so that was like middle school, high school kind of era.
Yeah. So in
Um,
high school, we when we got to high school, we got a my sophomore year, we got a new coach, and he really wanted to push lifting. So he was into bigger, faster, stronger. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but back in the day it was basically Monday, uh, Wednesday, and Friday, and you bench, squat, deadlift. And one of those days was just auxiliary, everything auxiliary you could think of. So you'd do push-ups, sit-ups, pull-downs, anything that had a machine on it, light deadlifts and stuff like that. And they built a weight room for us. And so they had a thing called a lift-a-thon. And so we went out, got money raised. People would, for every pound you lifted, they would give like an amount of money. I
mm,
do remember one person, like he was freaky strong bench presser already, and we didn't know this. And like somebody said that they would give like $1 for every pound he benched, and he like benched over 300 something pounds. And so like,
mm,
they, people were wanting to stiff him on payment. But
mm,
so that's what started the ability to buy equipment to start a weight room at the school. They actually
mm,
put it in the old training room and in the under the stadium to begin with. And then
mm,
there was a long hallway they blocked off, and we ended up having squat racks, bench racks, and then just a menagerie of other things in there. And so I fell in love with it then. Our coach pushed it. I loved it. I just loved getting strong.
yeah. So
So
then did that lead to so you said in like middle school you didn't see much playing time in terms of like football. Did you see an impact when you started like lifting and getting stronger? Did you see an impact on like your
oh yeah,
like performance?
so my freshman year, I became a starter on the offensive line, and then I was a
You're on the
backup.
line?
Yeah, yeah, I was a man. Our team was never big guys, and especially freshmen. We're just a bunch
Yeah.
of freshman kids, and so at our school and other schools we played against, they had like a freshman team,
Hmm.
and we were all small. We had the ones that were early bloomers in middle school, right? That never got bigger after the fact, that were
Yep.
big then, and they were kind of figuring out, their days were done. But so I played offensive guard, and I was second string middle linebacker, and I started at guard the whole year. Uh, one the starting linebacker, middle linebacker, he got hurt, and when he got hurt, I got thrown into a game, and it was a pretty big game, and I had a really good game from what I remember, and I got to play a little bit more then. When he got healthier, he ended up coming back in and doing most of the starting the rest of the year, but then those couple of games were when I figured out that that's what I wanted to do. That's where I wanted to be, was be a middle
Mm,
linebacker. So yeah, it fast forward sophomore year of high school, I get to play both JV and varsity, starting on both. Um, was a starting middle linebacker on the JV team, and then the varsity team, starting middle linebacker. He got hurt, and I was getting some uh, good practice time. And then he came back and was healthy, and they put me at nose tackle
mm.
of all things. And then he got hurt again. I ended up starting, but I would start back and forth with him when he was injured, and I wouldn't. And then I started the rest of the time I was in school.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And then from there, from high school, obviously you went on to play at Tennessee. You were scholarship at Tennessee or were
Now
you
I
walk on?
walked on. I walked
Oh,
on in
okay.
1995.
Talk through that. How did that process work?
Um, wasn't sure where to go to college. Had a bunch of small colleges reaching out to me. At the time, I didn't realize that. I would like to think I was really athletic. Still like to think I'm pretty athletic, but um, you know, I had the smaller schools, and I'd go visit them, and it just seemed like I felt like I was better than that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we go to these weight rooms, and their weight rooms were not even, you know, what I had for high school at the time. And my dad and I discussed all the different options. And then UT had reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in walking on. So at the time, pretty much you had to get invited to be a walk on at the University of Tennessee. You just couldn't show up at the doors and be like, hey, I'm walking on. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is now, but so I decided to walk on after a couple of visits with some coaches up there, seeing the facility, obviously, wow, small town Maryville guy. And then went in the weight room, and it was just crazy. You know, it was like
Mm-hmm.
it's like going to a big Gold's gym, but with more stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's where I got hooked there. That's what made me decide to go there, was basically the weight room and the opportunity, obviously, to play ball at a big school.
Yeah. Awesome. What did their like strength and conditioning program look like at a UT? Was it something that was like really structured, or what was the kind of process with that?
Yeah, so I started 2 weeks out of high school, and you had a summer program, and then it moved on, you know, through the season. You know, it was year round. When I started there, it wasn't a requirement for student athletes to be there. So not all the football players were there year round. They'd go home for summer. And then, so it wasn't a huge group, but they had brought in John Stuckey, I think 2 years before. And I believe he had been in Oklahoma before that. And he's a big, broad guy. You could always tell he was the deadlift, bench press kind of guy. And then he brought in Johnny Long, who had trained under Gail Hatch and was the guru for Olympic weightlifting. And that's when the change started happening at UT. So when I was there, before I got there, you had your classic, just big offensive linemen, big defensive linemen, all this. They were just big guys. What they were pushing was speed and explosiveness. So, you know, they didn't want anybody over 300 pounds at the time. So if you're over 300 pounds, you're on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we were Olympic lifting, doing snatches. We were doing clean and jerks. We were doing all those types of lifts, plus bench, squat. And it was a 4 day split where Monday was a pull day, Tuesday push day, Wednesday off, Thursday pull day, Friday heavy push day, weekend off.
Does
And
that
so
does the pull push, did that correspond to like upper body, lower body as well? So like
um,
like where did the squats and deadlifts and stuff and like
oh,
snatches
so
fall into
so
that?
so so snatch day was Monday.
Okay.
So we did snatches on Monday, and then Tuesday was bench squat, Wednesday off, Thursday was clean and jerk, and then Friday was bench and squat.
So no deadlifts?
We did deadlifts in there, but it wasn't, I mean, I don't remember what day we did it on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was because we did like the old hatch squat program too, where we were
Mm-hmm.
back squatting, front squatting on the same day. So it was pretty intensive over the summer. And then, but I don't remember precisely when deadlifts were. I still have in my shop here all the old notes, all my old dope books from lifting in
Mm-hmm.
college. Like my wife's like, "Why do you keep these?" Oh,
Why not?
I guess when Andrew finally asked me what we did, now I can go run in there and be like, "Oh, this is what we did: push balls."
Yeah, you didn't bring them with you?
Well, so but yeah, that's how it went. And if you follow the timeline with that, that's when Tennessee started seeing their boom in athletics.
Mm.
You talk about your big time players, and what it looked like. Kind of the joke was is if you came in there as a defensive lineman, you were going to get moved to offensive line, and if you were a linebacker in the years prior in 92, 93 type, well, you were going to get moved to defensive tack. I mean, D end, and then the
Hmm.
D ends were moved down to tackles, and it just kept going down to where we had a couple of receivers when I first got there, were just these jacked up. I mean, not receivers, but um, defensive backs were just jacked, these big guys. And
Mm.
then they just moved everybody down, and then
Hmm.
just flip flop.
Yeah.
Linebackers were becoming, you know, fullbacks. all the things like that. And then it was just really intensive with Olympic lifting.
Hmm.
So, and it's still, I mean, and Tommy Moffitt was there when I was there. He's now at the University of Texas A&M. He was at LSU,
Hmm.
and he's still teaching the Olympic lifts. He's still pushing that. So my guess is Texas A&M is going to see a big change
Hmm.
their athletic performance because he was at LSU. They won a national championship. You follow these guys that are still coaching the Olympic lifts in college, and these are the big time stuff. I think what's happening is people get on these kicks of like, well, this is the new thing. This is the new thing.
Hmm.
One-legged squats are going to be the
Hmm.
one thing that's going to make you super strong right now, from what I hear. If you don't even have to do regular squats no more. If you do one-legged squats and some deadlifts, you don't need to do nothing else.
Well,
So,
there's pretty good evidence that links strength in the squat, in the back squat, and performance in team sports like football. Like generally,
uh-huh.
people that have better squatting strength are better athletes. Which
Yeah.
kind of leads into my next question I wanted to ask is like what are your thoughts on, so you've got these like great athletes that are like Division I athletes, right? Like
Mhm.
the football players. Do
Yeah.
you think that like they would be successful in spite of their training, like the strength and conditioning stuff? Or do you like, how much of an impact do you think the weight room has on the performance on the field from your
It's
experience?
I think it's the most beneficial. I think that the weightlifting is more important than the output from practices and all the other stuff.
Mm,
It's and I may be biased on it, but it's if you look back just at the University of Tennessee, if you look back through the 2000s, they were pretty strong. Lane Kiffin was there. When Lane Kiffin was there, they had Aaron Osmus there. Aaron Osmus was a great strength conditioning coach. Um, he went on to USC. I think he's with Sorinex now,
mm,
but they were just better. And then when that lineage left, which he was part of, he went to University of Tennessee. He was on the track and field team, big time SEC athlete. And but when that lineage left, it went kaput.
mm,
The program. If you follow strength conditioning coaches, you can follow a program for the most part. In my mind,
yeah.
people don't look at that. And finally, these strength conditioning coaches are getting paid money,
Hmm.
but I would put more emphasis on that part of training than I would on practices. Like I even believe down to the high school level.
Hmm.
Every high school now, for the most part, has a strength conditioning program. What
Hmm.
the problem is before when they had it, some schools were implementing it during like a PE time.
Right.
So all these kids were getting to train, but you're not getting good solid training in 45 minutes because you got to, even if the class is an hour and a half, you got to get to class, you got to get
Mm,
dressed, you got to stretch, you got to warm up. Well, if you're, all that stuff takes 45 minutes to
hmm.
to almost an hour. And I know that because I put myself on the clock so I'm ready before a competition just to do two lifts,
Hmm.
not to go in there and do all the stuff, get set up, talk to my friends, try to get through a workout. But the schools that had it back, in the early 2000s, the high schools, they were winning state championships. They were the best teams.
Hmm.
And now every school does that. So it's all level playing field. If I was a coach, knowing I only had an X amount of hours with my athletes, I'd spend less time in pads, less time on the practice field, and more time in the weight room.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've heard from high school basketball kids it's going to mess up their shot, if
Hmm.
they lift weights.
Yeah,
So,
that's something that, so I trained with Louis at Westside, and that's
yeah.
like, I mean, obviously he's biased being like a power lifter, but he worked with a ton of, he consulted uh all these like college strength coaches and
Oh,
NFL
yeah.
strength coaches, and he
When I was
worked.
at UT, he came to UT. When I was a strength
Oh, he
coach at
did?
UT, yeah, he came there.
Yeah.
Him and his crew came.
Yeah.
It absolutely blew my mind because I didn't know. at the time I wasn't following anybody. I didn't understand. I still don't understand a bunch of stuff, but I didn't know who this was. And they're like,
Hmm.
West Side Barbell. And I was like, what the crap's that? Louis, everybody, all these guys are geeking out. He's coming.
Yeah.
And you see him and his crew walk in. I'm like, y'all geeking out about these guys?
But he's hey, he was a wild dude. He's a crazy guy.
Oh heck,
But
we implemented a lot of things.
yeah, I've seen Michigan. So I was up in Ann Arbor
Yeah,
for a few years, and I saw their like weight room for the football guys, and they've
yeah.
got like all of his equipment. They've got the reverse hypers, the um athletic training platforms, the inverse curls, like all these specialty machines that like Louis created. They've got like 12 of them like lined up in
Yeah.
the weight room. But yeah, that's like his big thing was if you want to become a better athlete, like spend more time in the weight room, getting stronger, getting faster. And then that'll translate into like improved performance.
Hmm.
And
I don't disagree with that at all.
yeah, and the other thing that like so you're talking about like there's all these trends, right, with like unstable training and like unilateral like single leg training and stuff like that. And I think um that's where a lot of like strength coaches fall into the trap of like trying to be too sports specific in the weight room, where it's like,
Hmm.
oh, the joint angles have to look exactly the same and the movement patterns have to look the same as like what you're doing on the field. Where in my opinion, it's like the weight room is your two goals in the weight room are to improve force production, right? So improve like strength and
Hmm.
improve speed, right? And if you do those things, if you just focus on doing those things well with like the compound movements, like the squat, bench, deadlift, clean, snatches, then that will translate better into the field, right? So like the practice field is where you practice sport specific movements, and the weight room shouldn't necessarily have to like resemble that perfectly.
Have
Would
you
you agree?
have you ever met someone who has an explosive, strong snatch that wasn't an athlete?
No.
Ever?
Yeah.
No, not one
Yeah.
person.
Well,
So,
let me ask you this. Do you think so? I think that the power clean is like a pretty common staple of like strength and conditioning
hmm.
programs, right? Do you
Hmm.
think the snatch should be taught for like all athletes? Because there is this really big learning curve. It's very technical. Do you see value in like teaching athletes that, or would you just say like stick with like the power clean and variations like that?
I think with a snatch, like I think if you get time to do a one-on-one with somebody and teach them like proper form and they can stick
Hmm.
to it, that's one thing. Um, the problem therein lies is that when you have these bigger programs, like I would have 30 people in a group
Hmm.
because of time constraints. And it's typically, so when I was strength coaching, I took on the walk-ons as well, place in my heart, right? But, and we would do everything on a whistle. So I would sit down in the middle and I'd keep an eye blow and I'd have to, I knew the guys that were really good at the movements so I could focus on the guys that were not. But I really think that like in it's the most explosive movement you can do. I really
Hmm.
believe that. I think it applies more to sport, to anything, especially doing it from a hang, right below the knee. Because even when I work with kids still, I try to help some people out and do some things with them. And, I'm, I don't have a degree in any of this. I have a degree in sociology. I minored in English. I was going to be a strength coach, maybe an
Hmm.
English teacher, and maybe coach some football. But the, just it's tough to teach to people who are not very athletic. So I guess
Right.
it's according to where you're at. Me, if I'm at a Division I school, which I was at, I could understand teaching that. You're teaching it to these just crazy athletes
Mm.
and fast twitch. They can pop, they can move. I mean, for the most part, they're just not big blocks, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's a place for it. I really do. I think there should be a build up to it. honestly think, unless you've been taught it before and just catch on, that it might be something that the first year, you know, you should have first year strength and conditioning program that is just first year stuff to where you can do your core lifts,
Mm-hmm.
bench squat, deadlift, learn how to pull a bar correctly, doing a clean off some, blocks, low blocks, high blocks, and do the same thing with the snatch and slowly teach that to your new athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate when I got there. It took me 3 or 4 weeks just to figure out how to move the snatch. We didn't do Olympic lifts in high school. And so, but there was only, 5, 6 people in my entire summer group that was working out during the time that I worked out. So I got attention that, somebody on scholarship would have got at the time. And so
Yeah.
I was fortunate there. But yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it's to me, I didn't go to school for any of this, and I know people are going to knock me for it, and I may be dumb, but that that one lift everybody's scared of, but it's just like if you want to teach somebody how to pop their hips, you teach them how to do power snatches. If you want to see somebody be able to dunk,
Mm-hmm.
should be dunking, teach them how to do power snatches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
I'm a firm believer.
I agree. I think there's a place for them. I just think it's tough because, like you said, you've got these big groups of people, right? Like you got all these kids coming in, and it is really something that needs like you need to kind of be taught it individually, right? And you need that kind of like individual attention to get it really well. Unless you're just like you said, just a freak, and you're just able to like pick it up like that. Because it's so technical, I can see how it might be a challenge trying to get like a large group of people to be able to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah, when you got 20 or 30 people in a group, it is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That just goes back, I guess, if you gave more time for a weight room or split it up different, it would
Mm-hmm.
help. I mean, it's probably all according to staff size and all that.
Yeah.
When I was there, we had a decent sized staff. So regular groups that ran during the day would be, you know, you'd be assigned 2 platforms, maybe 3 tops. So you're
Oh,
talking,
so you're talking like a 1 to 3 like coach to athlete.
yeah, so you'd have 6 athletes,
Yeah.
maybe 7, maybe 8, but they were on a platform taking turns. And so that's how you would do the time between lifts.
Mm,
So if you had 3 guys that were about the same weight, they would come in, get their folder. They knew what they were lifting, the weight was that day. Typically,
mm,
they'd hop in with somebody that they were pretty close to, weight wise, is what we would ask. And so you wouldn't have to change a bunch of weight. And if you were, it was just like, tens, fives, and then big weights all at the same time. So
mm,
that was one way that you work around that. When I'm talking like a big group, like I had one big group at a time, but most colleges are not like your Division I colleges are not like that. They're going to have a
right.
volunteer staff because guys are GAing, they're volunteering. We had volunteers in there,
Mm,
and then you have your full-time staff, and then you got your head strength coach and your, head assistant strength coach, and then you have another assistant strength coach, maybe 2, and then the GA staff, 4 or 5 of those, and then a couple of 3 volunteers.
mm,
So uh, that's typically how they would, this was eons ago. Hell, it's 2000, 2003 is 20 years ago.
mm.
So, which
Do
I
you,
still think the same lift stand.
yeah. Are you still in touch with like guys that are doing it today, like the strength coaches?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like Johnny Long, he was there. I still stay in touch with Johnny. Um, One of my really good friends, he's at Innsworth in Nashville, Brian Van Vliet,
Mm,
and Coach Moffitt. Uh, he actually came a couple years back in Baton Rouge and watched me lift when he was
mm,
kicking off the Moffitt Method podcast that he was doing at the time. And then I don't know, there's a lot of guys that still just do it,
mm.
that I talk to, text with, those types of things. So
Do you think they're doing anything like drastically different these days from like what they were doing then, or do you think it's pretty similar?
if I was guessing, I mean, I don't know, but I would guess it's pretty similar. I mean,
Yeah.
when you get on people's Instagram pages and all that stuff, I mean, they're, it's still the core lifts, any
Yeah.
way you slice it. And if you want to be successful, you can go and read and do and change, but at the end of the day, the most successful programs have always done the Olympic lifts.
Mhm.
They have always done, the core back squat programs and bench press programs. I mean, you can tell me you've seen 1,000 different bench press programs and squat programs. I mean, me and you've talked about different squat programs before. And what I found out is if you just stay on a program, typically you get stronger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's the thing is like there's really no secrets in strength training, right? Like there's a bunch of different like styles and systems, but like yeah, there's like you kind of talked about all these like new trends and like flashy things, but it's just, it's hard work and consistency.
mhm.
And you kind of pick a system or a program and you stick with it. So what like from the programs that you've followed, so just talking about like the strength and conditioning for like athletes, what are kind of like the big principles or like the big takeaways for someone that's trying to improve their athleticism?
You just said it, just being consistent. I mean, I talked to a kid today, and he's got big aspirations. He's gonna go Division 1, and you know, I'm teaching him how to do lifts. I'm teaching him how to do a snatch, and he's put out the other day because he felt like he didn't do anything, but they're practicing football right now, and I don't want to put him on heavy weight.
Mm.
We're not doing a lot of volume. Second he walks out of my shop, he's on the phone with some other guy talking about going to do agility drills. And
Hmm.
I think one is to be consistent, but the most important thing is to have a program, have something behind it.
Hmm.
I think these high school kids, they see like your Goggins and they see your Rock and they see, I only sleep 2 hours a night, da 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 da, and they're all jacked and stuff. Well, there's human growth hormone now, and there's, the TRT for stuff like that. And high school kid don't need to be on that. But these
Hmm.
guys, and these are guys are the extreme level of life and living it. But they're also, working out in a gym or running every day or whatever they're doing, but it's not advantageous for them to be healthy, you
Right.
know. Goggins is getting his knees redone. He's got his ankles. He's broke his feet and all that stuff. And I ain't taking that away from that man.
Hmm.
That's one as a human being I wouldn't want to mess with. And he's doing what he wants to do. But back to this kid is he's just like, he feels like he's always doing something. He's seen all this stuff that's how you should do it.
Hmm.
One, you need to rest, and two is consistency. And there's
Hmm.
no consistency in going every day and just looking for something else to do.
Right.
Right? You get on a program um, and stick to something. Like I always do a program. I have a 12-week program for weightlifting. I've
Hmm.
recently started running a lot. I'm trying to, I'm training for ultra marathon. Well, how does that look in my life? So I've changed that program to where it's like maybe I'm gonna do 3 days of weightlifting because I don't want to completely lose all my strength. I've already lost a lot of weight, but if I stay consistent on something, I can keep my strength because at my age it does just disappear pretty quick. But
Hmm.
if I don't stay on it, but I would tell these kids to stay on a program, stay consistent with it. Don't be looking for all this, all these crazy band workouts and all this stuff that you see. I mean, I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing is just like overtraining. Like these kids will
Hmm.
overtrain.
Yeah. And then potentially get burnt out because they're
Well,
just
yeah,
doing so
injured.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was telling him, I was like, I don't want
Yeah.
you to get injured. I mean, why would you want to get injured? You've got all these big aspirations in life, and all it takes is one day that you've decided that you're going to heavy squat, and then you get on heavy squat, and then you call this other guy who's a speed coach, and he's like, "Yeah, come on," and they're doing sprints that day, and there goes your
Hmm.
hamstring.
Hmm.
These kids don't understand that. And the guy that has him doing the speed work, didn't know that he just got done squatting a max, and the guy that had him squatting a max didn't know the kid was leaving to go do his speed work.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like that's kind of the curse of like the age we're in and with like social media being able to see all these like these different things, right? And that's like we see it in weightlifting too, where like people like program hop and
yeah,
coach hop. It's like just pick something, stick with it, right? Kind of see it out, like you said. Stay
I,
consistent with it
yeah,
for a certain amount of time, and like you will see progress.
I stayed on the same program from 2017 till this past year, which I actually switched here recently to give it a try, and it worked. But I stayed
Hmm.
consistent on that program. But I did the same exact program from 2017 to 2023,
Hmm.
and I did the same 12-week cycle every time, and I'd broken 26 or 27 national records, 10 Pan American records, and 2 world records.
So it works.
Just being consistent, I really believe.
Yeah.
Because I got on this other program with this guy, and it beat me to death. Like I felt like it beat me to death
Hmm.
to the point where I thought, God, this was just stupid. And then when I hit the competition, his was right on. He had his peak cycle set. It was different
Hmm.
than what I was used to, so I felt a little beat up, but I wasn't really beat up. I was just mentally beat up because I was like, golly,
Hmm.
we're rolling through 90% a lot.
Hmm.
So, but that's but it was just staying consistent and just
Yeah.
doing it. That's my old saying, as it is written, it shall be done. So,
Well, there you go.
sure.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
noticed that.
yeah, repping my man.
Repping. We got to get a new one. I've got a whole batch of new ones here. I'll
Yeah, I
send you
do.
one.
My arms are getting so big, things are ripping.
So, XL or 2X?
Medium.
Well, talk about your training. So you're like you said, you've got kind of all these accomplishments in terms of weightlifting, and you've recently kind of gotten into running. So you've already done an ultra marathon, correct?
I've done 3 so far.
Okay.
Um, I've signed up to do like a 6-hour run on the 18th of this month. But in November, I guess I got to call my shot at some point. I've signed up for the Pinhoti 100 trail race. So 100 miles to the on the Pinhoti Trail in Talladega, Alabama.
Well, nice. So what is has your focus switched like predominantly to the running in terms of your training, or do you still plan on like competing with weightlifting? What does that look like for you?
I haven't planned on competing in weightlifting. Like I decided earlier this year, like I was going to get out of it, and then
Hmm.
I hopped back in it because I'd gotten fat. Right, you'd seen me. I'd gotten heavy. Wasn't taking care of myself real good, and I was like, well, I need a goal. So my goal was I was going to try to get to senior nationals,
Hmm.
and I haven't through the end of this month apparently, but I put a drop dead date on it 3 weeks ago in Nashville, and I was dropped down to 81. I'd 81 kilos, which 178 pounds. I was weighing 196 when I decided to do this um, competition, and it was like 3 weeks. So I dropped basically 20 pounds in 3 weeks.
Jeez.
And I had almost hit the stats, which was 122 kilos. I dropped it. And then I went out and hit a 150 a 50 kilo clean, missed the jerk. And I was like, scratch this. So um, I did get my goal, which my original goal was to give me something to do, so I just wouldn't turn into a big old chubby fucker again like I used to be. And then I'd already signed up for this race at that time too, so there was a time when I was going to start running. But now I'm trying to figure that out. Like I think this week I've kind of got it figured out. So Mondays I'm going to do a snatch centric lifting.
Hmm.
So like this Monday I did like a snatch complex, snatch pulls, and then snatch balance, and then a back squat. And then Wednesday is um, cleans, complex, jerk, off the blocks, clean pulls, and front squat. And then Friday will be both lifts at a higher percentage, full range, and then back squat, lower reps. So I'm going high rep back squat um, on Monday, kind of like the 5-10 deal that
Mm,
we've, but and then the same thing, but with my front squat stuff where I'm already doing full range of motion on my clean. So like today's cleans where I did a three position full, full what as they call squat cleans in CrossFit, but full clean. So I don't go from above the knee, below the knee, from the floor, all full front squats.
mm,
And I do, I warm up, I go 40. Today it was light. It was, 40 kilo, 40 kilo, 60, 70, 90, 100, 100, 105, 105, 105. So my legs are not used to the volume. And so it felt pretty heavy. But then in turn, instead of doing a high volume front squat, it was threes up to a percentage. And then I did one set of 10 at a very light percentage, just trying to work volume work on that. And then Friday will be heavier lifts. I'll be, instead of 105, I'll be up to 120 doing some on fronts, on clean and jerks together. And
mm.
then snatches will probably be around 105. So,
Gotcha.
and then
So,
I'll back squat set to five,
so
four,
is this
five.
is the aspiration for to qualify for nationals, is that out the door? Or
Yeah,
you gonna give it one last shot?
I'm not going to. I'm
Oh
not
man.
going to.
It's I think it's too late anyway because when does the qualification end? I think it's the 23rd, right? Or 22nd of this month.
Yeah, this month. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I,
so it'd be too late to do the online qualifier because you would have to have done it in the previous month
yeah,
because
I'd have to
the
do it.
result
Yeah, that's so I signed up for that in April and I just,
you just
what,
didn't do it.
well, I had travel schedule at the time.
Yeah.
I was gone for 3 weeks pretty much from home, almost four.
Mm,
And finding a place to train and being consistent with that was really tough. So, I mean, I'm not sad about it. I've done everything I wanted to do in weightlifting. And it comes a point to where, you know, let me try something else. Let me do something else. And
mm.
I mean, my main goal is not to become skinny, you know,
Yeah, I hear that.
which sounds stupid, but it's like, you know, I don't want to look like the classic runner physique, you
Right.
know. I've always had big arms for me and no chest, obviously, but, wide back and strong legs. Now, my legs look like chicken legs now, but I mean, they're still decently strong. And
Mm,
I, you know, earlier this year, I guess it's 2, 3 months ago, I was able to squat 500 pounds.
mm.
And now I'm probably having trouble doing 315. But,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's interesting to see how like the body adapts to like the training, right? And like if you're running, if you're doing a ton of running, like your body's gonna shed weight and it's gonna start to like lose
mhm.
some of that strength. And obviously if you're training for like strength, you're gonna get like opposite adaptations. I've actually one of my athletes is he's getting into running, which I wasn't particularly excited about. He's like training for a marathon as well.
Uh-huh.
And he started to have kind of all these issues pop up too with like aches and pains and stuff. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's a ton of volume that you're just kind of adding that your body has to recover from.
You remember when you come and stay with me that time? About the week before I broke a world record. The next week I hadn't been running. I went and I ran a marathon.
Yeah. Yep, only you could get away with that.
I
Uh,
but that's my goal. I think I can adapt to it. I don't think
yeah.
I can adapt to it. And I'm trying to be healthier, trying to do some different things. I really enjoy. Like I wake up every morning around 180, 178, something in between there. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes less.
Mm,
But it's I feel a lot better. I feel healthier right now than I felt in a long time. I think, it didn't help that I got up to 196. Because when I get over like 195 pounds, instantly my low back starts hurting. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it's probably because my belly's gotten bigger. Now there's stress is different. My clothes are fitting different. I can't get comfortable on my back to sleep when I'm that heavy. So I sleep on my stomach and it's got me all weird arched up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just trying to figure that out. It's like I enjoy doing CrossFit movements. I enjoy CrossFit in general. I owned a CrossFit gym. So
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that stuff. And that's something I'm thinking more along the lines of training like that again, not to go compete and go
Yeah.
to, the CrossFit games or anything like that. But it's like, you know, 2 days last week, it's like, heck, I hadn't done a push up or a pull up in God knows how long, maybe 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped in and I did that Cindy wad, a
Yeah.
20 minute AMRAP of
Yep.
pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. And like the next day, I was wrecked.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, but I like that. I just overall want to be healthier again.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look better. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's fun being a big guy sometimes, but there's not a such thing as a 5'7" big guy. So I can get past that.
Yeah, I've been introducing some, I guess you could call it CrossFit. It's like some conditioning stuff that I'll throw into like the end of my workout. So I'll do like an EMOM on the bike. I'll do like 12 calories on the minute or
Yeah.
something like that for like 15 minutes. Or like the other day I did like double unders. What did I do? I did alternating minutes, like 50 double unders, and then it was like 12 or 14 calories on the row or something like that.
Mhm.
And I've actually, yeah, I've kind of enjoyed that. I kind of caught like a little bit of that CrossFit bug as well, because that's where I started back in like 2013. And I'm not going to go crazy with it, but it is fun to kind of mix it up and like throw that stuff into the training from time to time.
Yeah, so I get so caught up in whatever I'm doing that this time I promised I wouldn't do it. So when I did the weightlifting stuff, that's all I did.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from 2017 until 2022,
Mm-hmm.
same routine for the most part, except, bicep injuries or I'd take a few months off. Uh, and I wouldn't waver. I wouldn't go hiking. I wouldn't go running. I wouldn't ride my bike. I wouldn't do anything because it was going to interfere with my training. Luckily, I had a wife that understood how neurotic I am.
Mm-hmm.
But um, the best thing that was about CrossFit, though, is if we went hiking, we'd go hiking. If we wanted to go run, it was another workout. Like
Yep.
these were workouts to me. Then I could make them into workouts, which was stupid, but it wasn't. It kept me motivated and it was fun for me. And I think the part of this running is that's what I enjoy about it. It's like this is going to be a god awful challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that somebody built like me would be able to do it unless I cross train, I
Mm-hmm.
still strength train, and then I run on top of that. So, um, and I bought into it so much. I've got a running coach.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, oh yeah. So, just
Wow.
started with her 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Already PR'd my 5K this past weekend in the rain.
Wow.
Ran the Bigfoot 5K in 24:11. That's
Mm-hmm.
only 2 weeks of training. So, but
Wow. Getting serious.
yeah, but she's local. Her name's Mary Cates, and
Mm-hmm.
she has several guys that she coaches that I know. I know she's got a lot of people, but um, I just reached out and asked her. Her boyfriend, I know him, and they have East Coast Adventures running group, and they put on races and stuff. But I got to know them. They're great guys. It's kind of community based, just like the weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, uh, she's had a bunch of people finish 100 milers, and I don't know anything about running.
Yeah.
She wants to learn how to do some snatches and clean and jerks, which she probably already does, but I teach her.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing I've learned through all this stuff is like, staying in my lane per se, knowing what I
Mm-hmm.
know and being humble about it and be like, all right, this person knows how to do it. because I don't want to spend all this money and all this time and November 2nd roll around and I fail.
Yeah.
So
Well, if anyone's gonna do it, I've got faith that you'll be able to do it. And
yeah,
the fact that like you're this invested, I mean, shit, you've got a running coach now. There's no chance you'll fail.
yeah, yeah.
So,
She probably get, but like my notes I send, because I'm a journaler. I put
mhm,
notes like every day in this little running app, you know, because it downloads straight from Garmin and
mm,
she can see whatever I do. And then I'll put a note in there about the run, but I always put my weightlifting stuff in there too. So it's like she gets like
mm,
full dissertation on my weightlifting on top of the running. So,
mhm.
but
Nice.
back to your part about adaptation, it's like I have a feeling nobody's training strength wise like I'm training that she's training with.
Yeah. Which is beneficial. I mean, there's research on like strength training for endurance athletes,
Yeah.
and it does improve performance and probably helps like mitigate like injury risk
Yeah.
as well.
And part of
Speaking of
that, one of the things, and I'll get right with you, it's like I switched up now too, is I quit wearing a belt and I quit wearing my knee sleeves.
yeah.
Not that I'm doing lower weight and higher
Mhm.
volume and just really focusing on my technique and my mobility and was so unaware how different life would be without wearing that stuff. It's like, oh my God, I've
Well,
lost it.
well, dude, I when my knees were really fucked up and I had to like build myself back, I did the same thing. Got rid of like knee support, stopped wearing my belt, and was like, all right, I'm just gonna build back from like, create a new foundation.
Yeah,
And trained like that for months. And then I went to put a belt back on to do a clean, and I was like, this is fucking weird. Like
yeah.
it's just like it feels weird and different. So I've just never gone back. It's been like probably like a year and a half now, or like 2 years that I still use I will use like knee sleeves, like light knee sleeves, but
Mhm.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right, talk to me about because you mentioned bicep injuries. That's a fun story. Talk about your bicep injury that occurred in competition.
2018, I was at the World Championships um, for weightlifting. It was in Barcelona. Um, but to reel back 3 weeks before that, my daughter is out in the yard. She's learning how to do tumbling and she's doing standing back tucks. And she's gotten pretty good at them, but because dad worked with the cheerleaders as a strength coach at UT, I always felt like I knew what I was doing and I didn't. And she said, "Will you spot me?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so she does a flip. Oh, she does flip. Whoop. Well, then the third one she does, I think she's gonna mash her face. I don't think she's gonna make it all the way around. So she's spinning, and the full force of her legs hits me on my arm. When it hits my arm, it's just like god awful pain, and I didn't know what to do. So the first thing I do is, I honest to God, go down to my shop and I grab a barbell to see if I can even pick it up because I'm 3 weeks out from a world championship, and that's the
Yeah,
first thing that ran through my mind, right?
yeah.
And I couldn't. I was like, this ain't good. So um, I text my friend Don Reagan. He's a PT, was a PT here in town. He's a professor now. And I was like, Don, I got some stuff going on. This happened. He goes, well, can you come now? So I drove straight to his place and he looks at it and he's like, oh, well, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So he dry needles, he goes in there and does some stuff and it made it feel better from
Mm,
the instant pain I had. And then the week before the competition, I'm down in my shop lifting light to see if I can do it. And I'm like, well, it's do or die. I got to hit my openers because I haven't lifted in 2 weeks. And so I go at it and I hit my openers and it was tight like this. I couldn't get like this, but it was tight feeling. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I was excited, just beyond elated that happened. And then my wife and I get on the plane, fly over to Barcelona. We land on a Monday and we're sitting there and I was like, we get in the hotel. She's tired. I'm tired. I say, hey, I'm going to go knock the rust off. I'm going to go check out where the training hall is. It's 2 blocks away. I had to walk 2 or 3 blocks and I'm gonna see where it's at. and then I'm gonna hit a few lifts and I'm gonna come back. She's like, all right, I'll get unpacked, just kind of chill. So I get over to training hall, I'm just jazzed. There's all these people in there. This is my first like giant competition. I don't know anybody. And so I grab hold of the bar and I start warming up. And then I put 40 kilos on there, hook grip it up, get there, and I'm gonna whip it up there on my first one because my first warm-up set's always 3 powers with 40 kilos, 3 powers. I whip that thing up on my first one, instant pain in my forearm. So not my bicep, but my forearm. And
Mhm.
I'm looking down and I can't hold nothing, grip nothing, and I want to cry. And it turns black. So before the time I get back to the hotel room, which is 2 blocks away to talk to Casey, my whole forearm's black. And I'm like, babe, it's something's wrong, something's bad. I can't grip nothing. I couldn't even hold a cup.
Mm.
So I'm trying to figure all this out. And she's looking at me, and the famous quote was, I went all days of our lives on her. So, um, we're down there. And so, like, the next day, I'm just, I'm emotional wreck. I don't know what to do with myself. And she's like, well, let's go walk the city. And I'm already in a bad mood. And I said, hey, walk nowhere. I got a competition on Thursday. And if I feel better, I got to be able to compete. And I'm not killing my legs. I don't know where you thought this was a vacation. And so she's went all the way to Barcelona, and she's wanting to see the big churches and all the
Mhm.
architecture because that's what it's known for, and it's just unbelievable. So she talks me into doing the bus tour with her. So we're riding around the bus. To put up with me, she's like making me buy her sangria about every other bus stop, right? Because I'm not having fun. This is not fun anymore. This is me completely just worrying about how bad it's going to be. And so we do that stuff. And finally, Thursday rolls around for the competition. Um, I've got a guy named Travis uh, coming over to count attempts for me, and Samantha, his girlfriend at the time, they're married now, and and so they walk in, and instant, we're just like two peas in a pod, and she's motivating, he's motivating, and he's like, I told him what happened, and on Monday, and my arm seems to be a little bit better, so everything's feeling good. But his first words were just, hey, just understand it's gonna hurt. There's gonna be pain. Prepare for the pain, but you didn't come here to lose. Oh, shit, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I start to warm up and I grab the barbell, grip it, take the first one, no pain at all. It's just tight again. So it's like it don't want to go all the way out, but it's extending all the way out. So I pull, snatch, warming up with snatches, and I look at him and I'm like, dude, game on. I'm good. And so at the time, the people I was competing with we were really close, like 1, 2, and 3. That ended up being 1, 2, and 3. All our lifts were fairly close together. So you had to be hitting your lifts. So I roll out and I hit my first lift, and I can't remember if it was 113, 115, something like that. Get out there, pop it, catch it, stand up, drop it. I'm walk off the stage. Next guy up when you pass them. Typically in our sport, it's intense, but you're still like, we're old people, and we're like, hey, good luck, good job, good
Mhm.
luck. I go out, the second attempt, I believe, was 118 kilos. I may be off here, but I think that's what it was. And I pull hard, catch, and as soon as I catch in the hole and get locked in to stand up, I feel something in my right arm. I was like, ugh, it just felt like something pulling. I stand up, good lift, drop it. I walk off stage, look at my arm, and it's just like meat hanging. There's nothing here.
Uh,
It's just down here, everything like hanging. It didn't. You know how a lot of people talk about how there's balled up.
yeah.
Mine didn't ball up. It just fell.
Uh,
And so I walk off the stage and I look at Travis. I'm like, dude, my biceps gone. He's like, what? I said, my biceps gone. He's like, fuck, mate, it is. And he went into this whole like looking at me like freaking Braveheart, all this stuff. He's looking at it, and finally he's just like, "Good fucking thing you don't need a bicep to do Olympic lifts. What's your next lift?" And I was like, 120. And so roll out, bam, I hit my next snatch.
Good
Perfect.
Lord.
Drop it, walk off the stage, and we don't discuss it in the back. Like we're on the clean and jerks. We're past this. Um, so we go out to clean and jerks, and I hit my first attempt. But if you watch the video, it's clear that when I pop up, that I
Mm,
do this because I'm used to that. When I get here, my bicep kind of has a little bit of help with the lock in. Well, I didn't have that,
mm,
pop, and so it just went like this. Well, two judges, white light, one red. So I've got a good lift. I walk off. I don't think anything of it. Next lift, I'm nervous now because that happened. um, Pull it with everything I got. And when I do, I throw my throat into the bar.
mm.
Just thought I'd broke my freaking trach. I'm sitting there trying to adjust, and you can watch me waddling the bar because I'm just trying not to pass out now. Like I
Mm.
can't talk, I can't hardly breathe, and I don't know what I did. And so when I try to do my jerk, I throw it out front, I drop it, I walk off, and he's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "I can't." I hit my throat, kind of. And to this day, it's still jacked, like super jacked. Like I used to like to sing and do all these things. I
Mm.
can't do anything high pitched anymore. Like anything with any pitch to it, I can't do
Hmm.
it. I used to be able to call turkeys without a call. Can't do it. Crows, all this stuff, I can't do. But anyway, so then I have to hit my third attempt, competing against this guy in the States that was really good at the time. He was fighting off a knee injury, thank the Lord. Um, and then a guy from Germany. So I ended up hitting my third lift, which put me back in the lead. Well, kept me in the lead. And then he missed his third attempt. And then this guy from Germany just walks out and he's like, throws out this crazy number. Like, what? And he's going to hit. He ended up missing it. He ended up being in third place, but he told me, he's like, I hit this in training like 100 times, which I believed him. But so all this happened. I walk off the stage and they take me into this little tent to the side, and there was U.S. doctors there. So the people that were there this time were from the U.S.
Mm.
and David Labelli, I think was his name, and he was in charge. And they were sitting there like he was teaching his trainers like how to do the hook with the finger if the biceps gone. They're like, see, this one's not there. You hook this, there's a tendon there. And they like 5, 6 people. It wasn't hurting,
Yeah,
and so I was letting them do it. And then I got called back for to get piss tested.
of
And
course.
so, oh yeah, every time because apparently I've been on steroids for the past 8 years. But anyway, so I go back to get piss tested. I meet my wife. I'm talking to her, and I said, "Did you get video of my lips?" And she's like, "Yeah." Well, at the time she was studying for law school. She was up in the stands with her books and her computer in her lap, reading and doing all this stuff. And when I'd come up, she'd video.
Mm.
Well, she's showing me the videos, and I'm like, that ain't me. She's like, what? I said, that ain't me.
It
Well,
was someone else.
oh yeah, my wife
Oh my
cannot
gosh.
see good, right? So she's
Yeah.
had already had cataract surgery at her age from some stuff happened when she was younger. And so she was so zoned into her school stuff that the guy I was competing against was dark skinned and had
Mm.
dark hair and wearing the same singlet uh, that I usually wear.
Mm.
And so she was videoing him. So every lift that he did, I had none of my lifts.
Oh my God.
And then there was a guy, I think from Japan, that she thought was cute because he was short and chubby and he had the round thing on his belly and stuff. She videoed him too. But anyway, so we're sitting back there talking, she and I, before I go in and pee test, and we're cutting up. I finally let up about being a total ass about all the stuff that went on. And this guy from Germany rolls in. His name's Thomas, and he's got 2 beers. And so he's sitting there, and he walks up to me and he goes, "Here." He handed me a beer, and you know, we do a little cheers, and I was like, man, my bicep. He goes, I know. And then, I tell this story every time I get to tell it. But then he's like, you're not the man, you machine. And so I was like, hell yeah, yeah, I am. Yeah, no. Because I loved Rocky as a kid, and that was off Rocky 4, I think, or
Yeah.
whenever Apollo got killed. But so we're sitting there drinking beer, and then the funniest part about that is that on the drug test form, they test you for alcohol.
Mm.
And so we're both wigging out at this point because we've just drank like 3 or 4 sips of beer, not a whole beer, but 3 or 4 sips of beer. And then all of a sudden on the drug test form, that's part of like that they test you for is alcohol. So we're asking the drug test guy, and he's like, no, don't worry, don't worry, you're fine, you're fine. It's not really in your system. So, but that was that.
Dude, that
Ended up the next morning, wrapped up in ice. Finally told my wife, let's go see the city. Let's go have a good time. We go out for brunch. It's hot out. We're sitting by the beach, and I'm having a beer, and she's drinking a sangria and has a seizure, falls out. We have to hop in the cab. We go back to the hotel room, and that's how our story ends in Barcelona.
she had a seizure?
She had a fall, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah. I
Dude,
think all
that
the stress I caused her.
yeah. That's so wild. Did you get it I mean, you got it surgically reattached, right? The
Yes.
bicep?
So
Yeah.
I got home that week, and then 2 weeks later had it reattached. Um, and then like I'd won a world championship, and I'd only been weightlifting for 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, and I thought, well, on to the next, right? This is
Mm.
had the bicep surgery, and just didn't really think it'd be something I'd get back into. And then a few weeks in, the guy that I'm on his team, Joe Rodriguez, he's got Cup of Joe weightlifting. He calls me up. He's asking me how I'm doing, and I'm telling him. And he's like, "Man, it's gonna be a badass story next year when you come back and win the world championship again." I'm like, "I ain't doing it." And he's like, "Man, it'd be a really good story." So he got in my head, and 9 weeks later, I was back doing snatches after having my bicep reattached,
Wow.
and then ended up into that year going to Montreal and winning another world championship.
It's a pretty
So
good story.
yeah,
Yeah.
old guy stuff.
Well, awesome, man. I think our time is about running to an end here. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you. You have any kind of closing remarks for anyone?
I don't know, I just enjoyed this. I don't know. I really enjoyed weightlifting. I enjoy getting into sports and doing stuff. If anything, it's like don't let age be a factor. I started this when I was 40 years old, the Olympic weightlifting stuff.
Hmm.
I'm getting into ultra marathons at 48, 47, 48 years old. It's like don't count yourself short. That's what it boils down to. You may not win these things or be the best at these things, but just don't sit around on your butt at home and just die.
Don't
You
just
know,
die.
yeah, that's what people do, man.
Yeah, dude,
I'm
you're
I'm
right.
48, so
Like,
I've got people my age that are just that's what you're doing. If you're just sitting there, you're cutting your days short.
yeah,
Go
no,
live
I
them.
agree. I agree. Well, awesome, man. Thanks again for being on, and we'll have to get the whole crew in here next time. Get Cam and Greg.
I would love that.
I would too. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thanks again, and I hope anyone that's watching appreciated that.